Hello, hello, hello. Here we are once again. Today I'm going to do something a bit different. I'm not a massive expert on music, but let's just talk about something. And it's funk, rhythm of rebellion, the interplay of politics, economics, culture, and South African derivatives. Funk music is one of the most vibrant, radical, and liberating forces in modern musical history. Emerging from the streets of America during the fraud decades of the 1960s and 70s, funk became more than just a genre. It became a movement. Funk grooves were not merely soundtracks to parties, but rallying cries for marginalized communities, expressions of resistance, and vehicles for cultural pride. Yeah, so I like funk, as a background music, especially in movies when you have to do these certain scenes, especially that scene, like the movies with the two cops, like the two partner cops, and they have to stalk out the house or something, and the one goes by the front, the other one goes around the back, or basically when there's a drug deal going down and it's one of those dodgy drug deals where you don't know if your supplier is going to screw you or vice versa, or like a movie about a pimp and his hookers, whatever, it gives that doom, 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 doom. It gives that twangy background and it's really great. And personally, I prefer the derivatives without vocals because I'm just more of a instrumental guy. I vocals. I like people who can sing well, but the thing is, James Brown or whatever, but the thing is lyrics is just too much for my small brain. I can only concentrate as much, so I find instrumentals is just more than enough. Where were we? In particular, funk found an unlikely but profound connection with South Africa, where it infused the fight against apartheid and left its fingerprints on the country's modern musical landscape. Okay, well, funk left fingerprints pretty much everywhere, but I tried to bring South Africa into it because I'm South African. The essay will explore an intricate relationship between funk music and the political, economic, and cultural movements that shaped it. We will trace funk's evolution from segregated cities of the United States to the townships of South Africa, where local artists reinterpreted its infectious rhythms to soundtrack their own struggles and celebrations. Along the way, we will understand how has never been just about dance floors. It has been about power, defiance, and the unyielding human desire for freedom. Yeah, it's what I like about the United States is how a lot of its culture, I know how negative this will sound, but let's face it, funk, blues, these kinds of things, they do come from Africa. And so Africa will always be the genesis for, most of human music because Africa is the oldest continent. It makes sense. But after the slave trades with into Brazil, into the West Indies, into North America, there has been let's call it a synthesis or a synthesization of this music and then a feedback into Africa, especially when we talk about anything electronic. So then it gives the artists locally so much more to work from, and that is very interesting. Also, staying on the United States, so one of the biggest coincidences between South Africa and the United States, apart from both being countries, are the fact that both were colonialized, or is still colonialized, were colonialized, whatever your politics tells you, but my point is, and segregated. You had white people who, for a very long time, and probably still, dominate these countries, and now you have a black culture and a white culture, like they work, there's an interplay between them, and then there's an intraplay within these communities. These communities are also not just monolithic. There's like multiple kinds of like, subcultures within a community. So, you may be the funky guy, but I mean, your great uncle may be like the jazz pianist. So, although on the surface it may seem that you're very like the similar, like, there is like interplay, like you will probably have something to talk to this uncle about if you are a funk musician, or if not even a musician, you just listen to funk music, or you listen to 2 albums or 1 album or a song, and you will probably be able to talk to your uncle who's a jazz musician or pianist like about this. So there is like interplay and feedback and so forth. And South Africa, and because South Africa and the United States have such a how do you say, similar kind of history, and well, not totally, but some things are very similar. Like, so in the US you had segregation, you had slavery. In South Africa you had colonization. Then in the US you had segregation, and in South Africa apartheid. So for the black folk there is like, it's similar, right? I'm not black. I apologize to all of the black viewers or people. I say viewers, maybe no one is watching this, but like, look, I know I'm not black. It's just, it's interesting to talk about these things. And please leave a comment, or don't feel like, you shouldn't comment. Like, if I'm totally wrong, please tell me, and I will do something to correct it, or I'll make a follow-up or something about funk that, brings your opinion into it as well. It'll be interesting to have a conversation. Funk did not emerge from a vacuum. It was born from the legacy of African rhythms, the spirit of the blues, the improvisation of jazz, and the soulfulness of gospel music. Yeah, so like what I like about African music, or like where it started, once again, I'm not a music guy. Once again, please, all the music people don't slaughter me. I'm just like, now and then I guess like most of the human population, I will hear music, and some of it I will like, some of it I won't like. But what I like about like African music is like this call reply kind of thing, because it's very social. Like, so it sets your brain up in one way, which is like how do you say, internal, like a internally projected view upon yourself. And then it, like with the call, like the guy calls out and the choir responds, or the rest of the band as it now stands responds, and then that like basically that ignites something in your brain. So funk crystallized in the mid-1960s, at a time when America was seething with racial tension. It's still seething with racial. Sorry, American brothers and sisters, you're always seething with racial tension. So, geez, can I say this? I don't know if I can say this, but like, as a South African, sometimes I feel, now and then, I feel that we have less racial tension in South Africa than in the US. Like, well, at least from the media perspective. I've never been to the US. I think I should go. It's just so damn expensive. Like, now it's like, it's like 20 rands for $1. So, yeah, to travel will be expensive. But in any case, like, it will be interesting to go, because I want to learn more about your country, about which I talk so much and about which I know so little, right? It was a sound that celebrated black culture and unapologetically, placing rhythm at the center of the experience. Unlike the polished harmonies of Motown or the crooning or early soul singers, funk stripped music down to its rawest, most elemental parts. The groove was everything. Bass lines were bold and syncopated. Drums were relentless, horns punctuated the air with sharp blast of energy, and guitars scratched and clawed at the rhythm. Yeah, that dong, 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 dong. Vocals often became rhythmic chants or expressive exclamations rather than lyrical storytelling. Funk created a space where music and movement were inseparable. Yeah, like with this, that's like dancing where you see these people, the performers and so on, like moving to the music. For music to have zero movement in it, it has to be really, really good. If it has a lot of movement in it, like, I don't know, ABBA or Aqua or one of these cheesy, I'm not going to go generational, but like one of these super one-hit wonder kind of songs, they always have a lot of movement in, right? It's because like the song can't be carried alone by instrumentals and like vocals. It has to have other stuff in it too. The opposite, obviously, is classical music, where the people sit still. They barely move, and they barely move because, I don't know, how long does it take you to learn to play the violin? 15 years. The piano. It's crazy amount of time you spend on it. Funk is something in between, like because you get very good funk music, like. Essentially, but you do get like these specific movements that are associated with funk. The pioneers of funk include James Brown, Sly and the Family Stone, George Clinton and Bootsy Collins. Understood that they were doing more than entertaining, they were igniting something revolutionary. The only person mentioned here that I know is James Brown. Yeah, James Brown, how long did he perform for? Like 30 years, 40? Jeez, how long? It was a long time. James Brown is like very old. He died a very old man. How old did he get? 95 or something? Like, yeah, he moved a lot. Like, he was celebrated and parodied in many movies. Like, a very interesting person, very distinct voice. I'm not going to try to emulate it, but I can't. But I mean, James Brown, if you say James Brown, like, unless someone was born in a cave, they know what James Brown sounds like. And the music, that played around James Brown's vocals. James Brown's call to the get on the good foot was not just about dancing. It was about stepping confidently into a world that sought to marginalize black voices. Brown's anthems like Say It Out Loud and Black and I'm Proud became cultural touchstones, rallying cries for a generation asserting its identity and dignity in the face of systemic oppression. Yeah, music, like, I want to do more about this. Like, music and politics are very interesting stuff. Like, in South Africa, we had so many, like Brenda Fassie, like so many Miriam Makeba, so many like political singers, and that's like for me actually some of the coolest music is like, especially the music I like most, were the music that basically existed in a country, and it would have been censored if the censors were intelligent, but quite often they were just stupid. Like, I think in some other episode I mentioned it, like how stupid the South African censors were. Like, they would, they would not like, and it's not, okay, I want to say, yeah, maybe that's saying too much. I was putting it too strong now. I'm sorry if your dad was a censor in those times, no matter what country, from Brazil, USA, Argentina, South Africa, I don't care. But like, look, it is a person with like, I don't know, some clerical or security background who now has to figure out poetry. Like, I'm not even good at figuring out poetry. Like, so essentially, because I mean, poetry has so many meanings, right? So like, if music can exist in a space where people want to oppress it, but they can't because they don't have like the means to do so, or they have the means to do so. They simply, I mean, they don't have the mental means to do so. Like, that's the best music. There's like quite a lot of South African music like that. Politics in the groove. To understand funk's political dimension, we must appreciate the social context of its rise. The 1960s and 70s were decades of upheaval. In the United States, the civil rights movement had fought for legislative victories, but the struggle for true equality was far from over. Urban centers across America were burning with frustration. Poverty, police brutality, and institutional racism created fertile ground for artistic resistance. Yeah, like, jeez. There's like so many instances in the 60s and the 70s of police brutality towards minorities in the US, or in many countries actually, but funk's like more of an American thing, so we're going to stick to the US. Like, although, yeah, South Africa too. So, yes, if you're not the person, I'm not saying, you're a coward, but if you're not the person to go out and shoot a gun at someone, or to rob a bank, or to run a soup kitchen, or I don't know, like be a tutor after hours, like, whatever, everyone has their function. Like artists, like artistry, like whether it's like visual, sculptures, paintings, like music, can be very, very powerful people. Like, was it not John Lennon? John Lennon's, no, I'm not going to say anything about John Lennon. What's the other guy? It's a movie about him now. Bob Dylan. Like, so you can become a very strong power, and like not just your own personal power. Quite often these people don't want power. I doubt James Brown wanted political power. It's just you are inspired by and you emanate energy that basically either inspires other people or give them, a rest break. Like after a hard day of fighting the system, you can go to a funky funk club and just relax. And I know it sounds, silly or whatever, but, like fighting oppression is a very hard job or awful job or a terrifying job, and it may leave you traumatized. But like, in every war, there are break times, and this is what artists like provide, especially if it's like, liberation artists and these kinds of things. Funk was inherently political because it was rooted in the lived experience of Black Americans. It captured the joys and pains of life in segregated neighborhoods, the resilience of communities facing systemic neglect, and the determination to rise above oppression. The very act of playing Black rhythm and culture at the center of music was itself an act of defiance in a society that had long marginalized such expressions. Yeah, like, if you're Black, like, once again, now I'm not going to apologize again, but like, just to have black hair, like the way, like African American vernacular, like these things were like looked down upon or frowned upon or mocked or, whatever, or just blatantly attacked. Instead of just being the normal thing in a normal society in a normal time, it would just be accepted as a parallel system, or parallel thing that exists. Instead, it's like, attacked. I don't think segregated neighborhoods should exist. I think everyone should just like live together. And this is also a difficult one. Because, like, if people really, really choose to live together, like the Amish people, I guess that's their right too. But look, it's a fact that in the US and in South Africa, like the system, like with rent control and these kind of things, like it was set up, and some people like, it was like it was very powerful man now I can think of, but I'm not going to name him because it's not about him. Like, used basically, just lawyers, like litigation, army of litigation to keep certain undesirable, like, what do you call it, people who want to rent, like, homes and apartments, to keep them out, just like that. And then, this becomes like, part of all of these small things, going back to what they mentioned, the lived experience, all of these things like feed back into your experience, and you're like, Jesus, like, give me a break. Like, it becomes like overload. If every aspect of your life is rejected, mocked, makes you feel inferior, blah, 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 to top it off, like, then the police or the society, the services that's supposed to make your life better and secure you actively works against you. That's extremely dispiriting. And in that case, people like James Brown would then getting the newest album, geez, like that would probably bring some joy into your life, like for a period, at least while listening to the album, and connect to you. James Brown famously instructed his band to emphasize on the one, that is, to accentuate the first beat of each measure. This simple yet profound shift symbolized the assertion of control and identity. It was reclaiming of musical space, a heartbeat that could not be ignored. Funk became the sound of black empowerment, a musical form that invited listeners not only to dance, but to stand tall. Moreover, artists like Sly and the Family... I have heard Family Stone and Sly, but I can't name any of their music right now. But I know I have heard it in movies and just the media, whatever. They broke racial and gender boundaries by assembling multiracial, mixed-gender bands, making powerful statements about unity and inclusion. Their anthem, Everyday People, preached a message of equality and tolerance, weaving politics directly into the groove. George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic took a political potential of funk to cosmic heights. Through Afrofuturist imagery, Clinton imagined a liberated black future, a mothership connection that would transport listeners away from the shackles of earthbound prejudice. P-Funk concerts were not just performances, they were ceremonies of liberation, blending science fiction, humor, and social commentary in a spectacular fashion of sound and spectacle. This is cool. Wait, I have heard... Afrofuturist, I've once read I didn't read the book, unfortunately, that's how basic I am, but I read the review of a book, Afrofuturist book from Zambia, something I would want to look into, just read one book at least, put it on the bucket list. Must be interesting concert, like Afrofuturist funk concerts. Interesting. Mothership Connection. I should check it out. Economics of the... maybe I won't like it. Maybe I'll just check out 3 minutes. Maybe I'll check out everything. Maybe I'll keep on checking it out. I don't know. I full confession, I'm not really into funk, or else I would not use a script. I would just talk about it. But it is interesting how funk, interacted with politics. And it's also interesting how, because I'm just also super into movies, how it is used so often. All music's used in movies, but you can watch certain TV series and movies, and it can all be based on funk. And it's very interesting, how it was done. What's that TV series? Snowfall. Snowfall is like the African American Breaking Bad. If you're like a massive Breaking Bad fan, and you still have withdrawal symptoms from Breaking Bad. I also suggest watching like Snowfall. Snowfall is actually based on certain factual events. Obviously, like Breaking Bad, there's a huge amount of like drama and stuff added. But there is like they've got a pretty cool soundtrack. Like I remember the soundtrack was like very good. Possibly better than Breaking Bad. I'm not sure. Yeah, Breaking Bad wasn't very well known for its soundtrack, but in both cases, Breaking Bad and Snowfall, the acting is very good. The story is very good. Okay, whoa. Economics of the funk explosion. Because beyond politics, the economics of funk are equally revealing. Funk emerged at a time when the American music industry was rapidly commercializing black music. Record labels recognized the profitability of the groove, and soon funk hits were climbing charts and filling dance floors across racial lines. However, this mainstream success came with complications. Many funk artists, particularly those who were working with independent labels like Stax Records, faced exploitation and inequitable contracts. Yeah, isn't that like freaking horrible? But yeah, it's like all artists face this, and that's why some, like produce independently. Although I think producing independent, I don't know, it'll be very interesting to know. If you're like someone, please tell us more. But because I guess it's like starting any business. If you produce independently, it's like running your own business, but you have to do all the marketing, you take on all the risk, you have to get all the capital. It's a risky proposition, whereas you can get onto an existing label, but like EMI or whatever, but they may take super heavy advantage of you. Like, I don't know, what do you get out of a contract? I mean, out of a record deal, like 10%? Like, I don't know. Like the way I've heard is like in many instances, artists only make money from concerts and merch. Like basically you sell your music, and you basically lose it. So that's why I think the Rolling Stones are so successful, is because they produced it themselves or something. Which is rare. Despite the massive popularity of their music, artists often struggle for financial autonomy. Yet funk also empowered a wave of black entrepreneurship. Figures like James Brown understood the importance of ownership and sought to control their own music production, distribution, and publishing rights. Yeah, smart man. Brown even brought radio stations to amplify black voices and perspectives. That's brilliant. Like, if you have your own radio station, Jesus, can you imagine like what you can do? Like, then you're something like radio stations aren't really important anymore. Like, everything's on the internet. But I guess if you've got like a Spotify podcast or something, you can have a lot of power. Like, and you can make a lot of money, like from selling merch and stuff on your radio station or your podcast radio station, whatever you want to call it. A podcast is like a radio station. It's just like, well, I guess if you have more than one person like running the podcast all the time, it will become live. And if you have rights, you bought like the rights to play music. Now it's like I'm thinking too far. Funk created economic ecosystems within black communities. Yeah, this is like one of the ways you should create wealth. I watched this documentary called By Black or something. It was that guy from Run DMC, Run the Jewels, RTJ, Killer Mike or something. He made a movie with some other guy or something about just like, keeping it in the ecosystem. So basically you buy black, thereby, if you're going to spend money that leaves your pocket because, well, look, you have to buy bananas, you have to buy a cell phone, whatever, like try to find black entrepreneurs or black, at the very least, like a black person in the supply chain from which you can buy. That's how you keep it in the system. Like, I'm Afrikaans, for Afrikaner person. Like in South Africa, that is how they created wealth, is the Afrikaner Broederbond, which they basically, well, okay, they used politics as well, but like essentially one of the biggest things was to try to like keep, when you buy something, when you sell something, you try to keep it within Afrikaans hands. And well, yeah, I think black people should do it because, like, why not? There's nothing wrong. It's not like illegal. Like, and then you can help a lot of people. You should check. I forgot, but you'll be able to Google it or use the AI and find it. Like Killer Mike by Black documentary. Just Google that or put it into your DeepSeek or whatever you want to do. Concerts, record shops, and independent labels provided jobs and opportunities in neighborhoods otherwise starved of investment. Funk's popularity helped fuel the development of fashion, dance, and visual art scenes, all of which became thriving industries in their own right. Ironically, as funk's commercial appeal soared, it risked being diluted. Elements of funk were absorbed into mainstream disco, and corporate America eagerly used funk grooves in advertisements, movie soundtracks, and television shows. I guess I'm a bit guilty there then. The rebellious edge of funk was often softened for mass consumption, but its revolutionary spirit could never be fully extinguished. Yeah, of all these things, I think the worst is if it's absorbed into mainstream disco, or like, what do you have these days, like mainstream techno, or whatever the rubbish they play in clubs. Like, basically, if your song gets into that, okay, well, maybe you make a lot of money that way, then, well, all the more power to you. But like, essentially, it's just so tacky, isn't it? Cultural impact and global reach. Funk's cultural influence cannot be overstated. It revolutionized not only the soundscape, but also the visual and performative dimensions of music. Funk artists embraced bold fashion, elaborated stage shows, and larger-than-life personas. Think of Bootsy Collins with a star-shaped sunglasses. Yeah, I've seen that one. And flamboyant costumes. Or George Clinton's psychedelic spaceship performances. Funk permeated film, television, and fashion, shaping popular culture in profound ways. The swagger of funk. Yeah, swagger is a good word for funk, isn't it? Like a good adjective. Its playful irreverence and its emphasis on self-expression inspired countless artists across the genres and generations. Hip-hop, for instance, drew heavily from funk's rhythmic foundations. Early hip-hop DJs sampled funk records extensively, looping breakbeats to create the backbone of rap music. Globally, funk's influence spread like wildfire. In Brazil, it merged with local rhythms to create funk carioca. Yeah, is it funk carioca or funk karaoke? No, karaoke will be English. Funk carioca. I can't speak Portuguese. I'm sorry for slaughtering this. The sound of Rio's favelas. In Nigeria, the legendary Fela Kuti fused funk with high life and jazz to invent Afrobeat. Oh yeah, Afrobeats. Cool. Does Afrobeat come from funk? Okay. A genre that became a powerful tool against military dictatorship and social injustice. Funk became a global language of resistance, adaptable to local struggles and expressions of defiance. Okay. Now getting to South Africa. Funk finds home in South Africa. One of the most fascinating chapters in funk's global journey is its impact on South Africa. During the dark years of apartheid, South Africa's musicians were eager to absorb global influences that could invigorate their fight for freedom. Despite the regime's attempt to isolate South Africa culturally, international music filtered into the country through bootleg records, pirate radio, and touring musicians. South African artists found in funk a musical kinship. Its infectious rhythms and rebellious energy resonated deeply with their own struggles. Bands like Harare, widely regarded as South Africa's premier funk outfit, blended American funk with local sounds like Mbakanga and Township Jive. I hope I get Mbakanga right. Yeah, I should have gotten that one right. Harari's music was both an escapist pleasure and a coded protest against apartheid. Oh, yeah, as I said, coded protest. But it wasn't like so. I don't know Harari. I just know the general way, like artists work in South Africa. You don't need to deep code it because, like as I said, the sensors weren't that intelligent, so they couldn't figure out what you were like trying to say. Harari's success broke racial barriers in South African music scene, performing at a time when black musicians faced systemic marginalization. Harari became mainstream stars, bringing funk into South African living rooms and dance halls. Their sound was vibrant, defiant, and distinctly African. Funk also infiltrated the grassroots level of South African society. In shebeens, underground bars that served as a social hub for black South Africans, funk records kept spirits high. Yeah, shebeens is like something different. If you ever go to South Africa, I would recommend going to a shebeen. Like maybe go with a local guide, find like a local tour company or something because it may get dangerous. But it's a very interesting experience, and like the booze is cheap. It's very cheap to drink there. It may be dangerous places though, so I'm just like saying, be careful. Like go with a big crowd, and don't when you leave, make sure everyone leaves at the same time. And if someone bursts in with a gun, just do everything they tell you, okay? And you don't get shot. It's not that, now I'm like not selling it. That's not the idea. Look, it's the same if you go to Brazil into doing this favela, tourism, which some people may actually argue is like, it's unethical because you're treating the people as if they're living in a zoo. And I guess some of that may be true, but on the other hand, these people are getting money for it, or at least there is economical money flowing. There is money flow into the local economy, and who will ever say no to money? And it also, the other thing it does is it also shows people really like how other people live, which I think is essential in creating human global empathy, just to understand or understanding, and in any case, go to a South African shebeen. Also, okay, one more thing, the music may be very loud as well. If you like soft music, don't go. So, these spaces were more than just places to dance. They were sites of political discussion and community organization. Funk's rhythms provided a soundtrack for resistance and solidarity. The legacy of funk in South Africa, getting back to the shebeens, I've been in shebeens about 3 times. It was nice experiences. Like once I was one in Western Cape. It was a mixed ethnicity shebeen, and I'm just gonna say it in a political correct but honest way. Because we were white, we were treated as royalty. Like this is one of the things that happen because shebeens are mostly black or basically black. It's not mostly black, it's basically black. It's very rare that white people venture into them. And in all 3 instances of me going there, I was treated as royalty, seriously. Like, people, everyone came to greet me. No, actually, I was in a shebeen 5 times. Now I remember. People greeted me. I was left in peace. Well, okay, there was no aggression. When you go to a pub and people get too drunk and people get aggressive. I hate that. There was none of this. People got exceedingly drunk, but there was no aggression that I saw directed against me. I think once, there was aggression of someone else in some other corner, but none of it, affected me. because it wasn't my fight. But yeah, every time was pretty nice. And in one of them, I was actually treated as a celebrity. Like, I mean, I'm a nobody. And I'm not dressed up. I'm not wearing a suit or expensive clothing or anything. Like, I'm just, people coming to me. They talk, like, they really engaged me. It was an awesome experience, actually. But the music was very loud. It was so loud. Like, it was very difficult to, like, because it's a cheap place, right? It's a very informal place. It can be someone's garage, or just adjacent like building to their house, which they built on, and then the music system isn't very good, or very poor. So when people's like music, the sound system isn't good, they always crank up the volume more, and then it can be bad for the ears. Okay, getting back to funk. The legacy of funk in South Africa extends beyond the apartheid era. Contemporary genres like Kwaito, born in the township of Johannesburg in the 1990s, carry the unmistakable DNA of funk. Kwaito's heavy bass lines, call and response vocals, and streetwise swagger, and direct descendants of funk's pioneering sound. Similarly, Amapiano, the house-infused genre currently dominating South African airways and international airways, bears the imprint of funk's rhythmic obsession and communal energy. Yeah, it's like Kwaito. I don't like Kwaito. It's too like. It's a good dancing music, I guess, for people who can dance very well. And people who like to see other people dance very well. Then Kwaito is a good music, but every time I've encountered Kwaito, it's super loud. And also, for me, Kwaito, well, I'm not the expert, but all Kwaito kind of sounds the same, unlike funk. But now there's this new thing, Amapiano, and, well, not that new, but like, Amapiano is better. It's like more... it's more like synthesized, so it's a bit more mindful, and like you can actually listen to it. I mean, if that wasn't the case, it wouldn't have become an international music. No matter where you go, Asia, South America, North America, you'll find Europe, you'll find Amapiano. Maybe not the Middle East, but like. You'll find Amapiano simply because, well, people like it. Something doesn't become a global hit if people dislike it, right? Much like funk. The eternal groove, funk's enduring legacy. Today, funk continues to inspire new generations of musicians and activists worldwide. Its enduring appeal lies in its ability to combine pleasure and protest, dance and defiance. Funk is a reminder that even in the face of oppression, joy is a revolutionary act. In South Africa, the echoes of funk are heard not only in music but in fashion, dance, and street culture. Funk's ethos of self-expression, resilience, and community empowerment continues to shape South African identity in the post-apartheid era. Globally, artists from Beyonce to Bruno Mars. I don't like Bruno Mars. Beyonce is okay. Yeah, Beyonce is nice. Bruno Mars is retarded. Maybe I shouldn't have said. Okay, Bruno Mars, please don't sue me. I don't have money. I have revived and reimagined funk for contemporary audiences. Modern funk celebrates its roots while pushing the genre forward, providing that the groove is far from dead. Funk festivals, dance competitions, and educational initiatives keep the spirit alive, ensuring that new generations understand and appreciate funk's rich heritage. Perhaps most importantly, funk remains a powerful reminder of music's potential to unite people across divides. Whether in the streets of Detroit, the favelas of Rio, or the townships of Johannesburg, funk has proven that rhythm knows no borders and freedom always finds a beat. How true, eh? Conclusion. Funk music is far more than a genre. It's a cultural force that has shaped politics, economics, and societies around the world. Born from struggle, fueled by resistance, and sustained by communal joy, funk has transcended its American origins to become a truly global phenomenon. In South Africa, funk's legacy lives on in the rhythms of post-apartheid expression, in the energy of the township music, and the ongoing pursuit of freedom through art. Funk teaches us that even in the darkest times, there is power in movement, strength in community, and rebellion in rhythm. It invites us to celebrate our identities, to challenge oppression, and to dance our way towards liberation. The groove, as they say, is eternal. Yeah, like dance music, in the form of funk, these things are very, powerful in creating liberation, or at least like soothe your way towards liberation if you're a freedom fighter, and if you find yourself in a space of oppression. If not, like maybe you just like it, and now we're viewing it like kind of from a historic context, but it's pretty much alive if you consider how powerful Amapiano is. I wonder what's the market value of Amapiano, but it's probably quite a bit. In any case, thank you very much for listening. Have a nice day. Goodbye.